Hello and welcome to episode 125, the first one of 2023. I almost said 2022. As always, Mike, your host. I'm back. Bill is back. Kenny's back. Oscar is in the green room. He's got a avatar picture that I refuse to bring on the screen, so I'm going to wait for him to come back to his laptop. And Jason will be joining us shortly. Bill, Kenny, how are you guys? And how was your New Year?
Happy New Year's, everybody.
Good.
We ended the year on a sour note, but hopefully your new year itself was more pleasant than last Friday. Today we have a lot to talk about. Another year, another soap opera at our club. It's becoming an annual tradition. Oscar has now joined us. Oscar, how are you?
Very good, guys. Happy New Year.
Right. Oscar was worried that his voice wasn't going to be up to par. He partied for New Year's like a 21-year-old.
Yeah, I
So.
left it behind.
So today we have Benfica, Sporting Braga 3, Benfica 0. First defeat of the year after 28 matches unbeaten. We succumbed to our first defeat just before the turn of the year against Braga, a match that we expected to be difficult, but not sure we expected the performance to be what it was, if that's what you want to call it, a performance. We will talk about January transfer window, some rumors, some talks about who's coming, who's going, and of course, we have to talk about, naturally, the Enzo Fernandez chaos that's going on. We'll give you some insight into what we know based on very reliable sources. And we'll get your thoughts. How are you guys feeling about it? Are you as frustrated as us? And you have the opportunity to call in and join us and take part in the conversation, video or audio, however you prefer. You can do audio just itself without doing video. If you're laying in bed watching us and you don't want to show your face, that's fine. You can just join us with audio. And if you join, you know what? We're going to throw in a free Cantinho Benfiquista t-shirt or hoodie. Your choice. So a little incentive for you to jump in and join us and join the conversation and make it a little bit more engaging with you guys. But if you don't want to join, that's fine. Send us your comments and your thoughts in the chat, and we will gladly partake in that conversation with you as well. Lastly, para a malta que esteja a ver em português, hoje é o nosso podcast em inglês. Amanhã temos o podcast em português com um painel diferente a partir das 21 horas, hora de Portugal. Por isso, hoje estão à vontade de participar aqui nesta nossa conversa. Todos percebemos português. Deixem os vossos comentários na caixa de comentários e iremos abordar as vossas opiniões, sugestões, frustrações. Deixem a vossa opinião em relação ao Enzo, à derrota com o Braga. Mas, como disse, hoje é o podcast em inglês. Amanhã temos o podcast em português com um painel diferente. Quickly in the chat. Arnaldo Rosa says Força Glorioso. Ronaldo, sorry. Desculpa. Ronaldo Rosa, Força Glorioso. And Joaninha, I should get one for joining last time. You got a point. You know what? I'll toss one your way. We'll chat after the podcast. Gentlemen, Braga 3, Benfica 0. I'm going to start it with this. At least I'm going to speak for myself. I expected a defeat to come sooner or later. I'm not one of those romantics that believed that Benfica was going to go the whole season undefeated, Cinderella story. I was certain that there was going to be a defeat, maybe more than one defeat along the way. There's no team that's going to play at their top level throughout the season across various competitions. Now, the way the defeat came was very surprising and very frustrating, to say the least. So before I give my thoughts, I'm going to pass it over to Kenny. Kenny, what were your thoughts on that game, the performance, the result?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel the same way, right? I think I'm not disappointed. How should I put this? I'm a little worried. I think I'm more worried than you. I think I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here. It's been a long day. Let's put it this way. Benfica's got a tough schedule coming up, in my opinion. One loss isn't a big deal, but you start accumulating those after a long break. I think you can see that trouble could be on the way. I was trying to actually pull up stats here from 2019-2020 season when we had also that COVID break in the season. I believe we were 7 points up in the league, I believe, at that time. And we ended up losing the league
accurate
after that break. And again, it was just one draw. I think it was one loss to a rival, and then it just snowballed after that. There's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of drama with the team going on. The Enzo saga. I would have felt better if it was a loss, but we played well. But like you said, it was not a pretty game. We didn't show what we've been showing the first half of the season, and it is concerning. Now, this Friday, if we win and we look much better, will my view on it all change? Of course, I think that will be a good sign. But it's so tough, man. And all it takes is one. And like, dude, Porto and Sparta have been dominating their last few games. So it's not a good sign. I'm not at like the highest of alert, like ready to press the button, but it is concerning to me. I wasn't feeling good after that game. I was pretty.
I'm going to ask you this: before that game, 20 games unbeaten in official matches. Did you feel like Benfica was at their climax, unbeatable? The cream of the crop.
We were
but
unbeatable.
Was that your sentiment, right? But what I'm saying is, like, did you sense like we were the best and unstoppable at that phase?
I didn't think
regardless of we had 28 games unbeaten, but did you feel like, we were at the peak, no one's touching us, we're going to run the table?
I think we would have lost a game here or there.
Okay.
I would say that I was hoping to go the Portuguese league undefeated. I think that was a possibility. Now,
really,
would we lose a game in Champions League here or there? Yeah, but I think that we could have gone undefeated if everything was status quo. We could have gone undefeated in the league. It's happened before, but it comes down to how we lost to Braga. Like, if we had lost a 2-1 game, or we got some bad luck, I would be fine. Like, yeah, it happens. I mean, it's inevitable. But the way we lost, I mean, I felt like I wouldn't say dominated, but I felt like we just didn't show up.
I would say the first half we got dumped on, and then the second half I thought we looked a lot better. We just couldn't put the damn ball in the net. Bill, I'm going to pass it to you. Thoughts on the performance, the result? Were you a believer or romantic that we could go all the way, at least domestically, without a defeat? Jorginho says here, I feel like this was inevitable with the World Cup break. Red Baron, welcome back. Happy New Year. Folks, we shat the bed. No other way putting it. Bill.
Yeah, I agree with what Red Baron just said right there. I think, like Kenny touched on, it wasn't just like the loss, right? I feel like the loss, losing the game, was going to happen at some point. I didn't expect us to go the entire season without losing a game, because if you think about it, once we get into the later stages of Taça Portugal, the Champions League, we all expect us to potentially go through against Club Rouge, right? You're going to have to start rotating the squad, right? You're going to have to kind of set importance to certain games over others, because you're not going to be able to have the same 11 out there every 3 days. So I figured there would be a loss at some point, but I think it's the way we lost this game. We looked horrible. It wasn't just like one or two guys looked bad, like the entire team. The guys that even weren't at the World Cup, that were training not the entire time, but that were with the club for most of the time.
Son agrees with you. Just an alert.
I appreciate it. Now
at least we got one fan.
Yeah. I just, it was the performance and the way we looked, and there was something with the team that, like, once we went down, was it 2-0? I think they were like, it was like that old the JJ season. Once we got down, you saw heads go down, and it was one of those things where you felt like the team maybe felt like this one might be done for, and we couldn't claw our way out of it. I said in our group chat, I said the second half is going to tell a lot, right? Like what this team's kind of built of and made out of, and they looked a little bit better, but I mean, we couldn't find the back of the net. I think that overall that we deserved to lose. We did not look good at all. Braga, I mean, they had a game plan. They sat back, countered, hit us well on the counter. We also
The early goal also helped.
Yeah, we also played into it, making stupid fucking mistakes, like stuff that typically you wouldn't see. Florentino was making all sorts of mistakes in the midfield. He seemed like he was on ice skates, just sliding all over the place left and right. So it was overall a horrible performance. I knew the loss was coming at some point. This just makes it feel worse, I think, because of everyone's concern with the World Cup break, right in the middle of the season, being stopped for like a month and a half. Like that was the big concern, how we were going to look coming back. And I think this just magnifies that we look like shit. Now, like Kenny said, Friday is the big one. How are we going to bounce back from that loss? Are we going to look good, or is it going to be another struggle to potentially, hopefully, get 3 points, because we need to bounce back with a win?
And that's the title of our podcast. How will we bounce back? I think that's going to be the most telling part. Before I go to Oscar, Jason, welcome. Happy New Year. How are you?
Hold on, guys. How's everyone?
Good. Now we're going to pass the ball here to hashtag the realist. Oscar is going to lay down the law here and tell us, how are you feeling? I feel like Oscar's reaction is going to be a little bit more aggressive, but maybe I'll be wrong. What were your thoughts on the game, the performance? Any conspiracy theories brewing in your head?
No.
Oh,
I actually agree with what Bill and Kenny said. What surprises me about this game is how bad we played. We legit did not look like at all what we played in the first half of the season. Some of the players were sub-performing like I've never seen before. It felt like the preseason game all over again, and where the coach tries different players, even though that was our normal lineup, some of the players were just off, completely off. I had a bad feeling about this World Cup from day one. You guys all know that. I had a bad feeling about Benfica coming back and basically shitting bed, and I hope I'm wrong. I had a bad feeling about Enzo in this World Cup, and I was right about that. So this is like what I'm concerned about is like we've never been through this phase where we have to come back from a loss. It's going to tell a lot about how this team is built and what we can expect going forward. Now, if Portimonense is the best case scenario because they are horrible this season. I mean, if you look at their record, is like loss, tie here, loss. So, and we're playing at home. So if there's a team that we can bounce back against, it's Portimonense. Now, if we don't get a good result against Portimonense, we're falling off the cliff. and that's me being realistic right now. Like I just don't. We have a lot of young kids in our team. We have a lot of kids that think. And I'm not talking bad about. Right now Enzo's on my shit list, right? But I have a feeling if Portugal had won the World Cup and Ramos had a great World Cup, you'll be in the same boat as Enzo. All right. And that, like, it's just a thing of these young kids nowadays, they look at the green, they look at the money, and obviously they want better. They want to make triple, quadruple the money they make at Benfica. They don't play for the shirt anymore. So to me, is more how we bounce back from this loss, having such a young squad.
I agree. And Jay, before I pass it to you, I said it in our group chat on Friday, and I tried to not engage in too much conversation about the game because I wanted to leave it for today. But like I said at the beginning, I wasn't one of those that thought this was going to be a Cinderella story and the sky is beautiful and rosy and the sun's shining bright and we're going to have a Cinderella story that we're going to win out in the Portuguese league. Domestically, we're not going to, have a speed bump here or there. I was a believer that eventually 1 or 2 speed bumps are gonna arrive, and I'm speaking domestically, right? Because the expectation is that we're not going to win the Champions League, right? So I was a believer of that. Now, when I tried to think about it, right? Like, would I be more upset Benfica lost to Braga 3-0 away in a match that, regardless of the situation, it was going to be difficult, or would I be more upset if we lost at home to a lower half team? Right, or away to a lower half team, right? Like either way, how I tried to cut it, I would be pissed off. Whether it was a weaker team, whether it was a better team, whether it was a rival, a loss was going to taste the same way because it was our first, regardless of honestly, the performance, the result, right? Like 3-0 and the way we played isn't flattering, isn't pleasant, right? But I feel like even if we had lost 2-1, I would have been equally as pissed off because we had gone 28 games without losing. And it was the first game back from a long break. With that said, I feel like I've turned the page. I'm not even frustrated about it. I really turned the page quick on Friday. I'm more focused now on the reaction for Friday against Portimonense. I feel like that, like you guys said, is more important, at least for me, because I think it's going to tell us a lot. And don't forget, we have no Rafa on Friday because he's suspended for yellow cards. David Neres is still in limbo, and Enzo Fernandez isn't playing on Friday. And we'll get into that.
So let me ask you this. So let's say we come out with a tie next on Friday. What do you say then?
Then I'm worried. 100% worried.
But don't you think that the game on Friday stems from the Braga?
It could, but I think it could. But the way I look at it is, I think it could. This team has given us. I agree with that. But this team, the way I'm trying to look at it is, this team has given us 28 games of undefeated football and really good football at times. They've given me more to believe that they can bounce back than not enough to believe that they're going to shit the bed long term, right? So like I'm holding on to the fact that we went 28 games of not being beat to think, all right, it happens, right? Like you're going to have a bad performance. If there was a time to have a bad performance, that was it. Coming off, we had 6 players that were away at the World Cup that were starters that hadn't been playing during that phase. João Mario wasn't getting minutes, right? Gonçalo Ramos got a few minutes. Tony Silva didn't get minutes, right? So like there was a lot. And again, it's not an excuse. It's just a fact, right? And if there was a time that Benfica was going to have a subpar performance, I feel like that would have been the time. Now, on Friday, after that, if this team doesn't bounce back, even from a mental state, from an expectation perspective, from a commitment on the field perspective, like we looked completely shot. Like there was no press, there was no imagination, there was no creativity, there were very limited chances created, simple passes, we weren't making them defensively. Like Florentino was like, looked like he was on ice skates. Like what the hell was going on? He was all over the floor. And I was telling Bill that, I don't know if you guys remember, but Bruno Lage, Florentino had a game against Braga away, and I remember like it was yesterday, and it was one of the worst performances he ever had. And he had played well that season, but that game away at Braga was the downfall of his future at Benfica, and he ended up basically, after that, he didn't play much after that. I told Bill that game reminded me of Florentino from that game. Now, I hope that's not the case. Again, this team has showed us enough over 28 games to believe that that was just a one slip up, right? And on Friday they'll sort the course out again and we'll be back on track. If that doesn't happen, then naturally I think we have to take a step back and say, oh, hold on a second, right? Like are we really going to hit a phase now where we're going to be in trouble? But again, we won't know that till Friday.
And guys, another thing, a bad result Friday puts everything in Porto's hands.
If they win, correct, because then they depend on themselves.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then you got Sporting after that.
Correct. So I think if we can win against Portimonense and have a good performance, and then we have a big game against Sporting and get a result there, then I think this team anemically, mentally, motivationally will be back, right, where we need to be. Now, if we get a bad result against Portimonense, against Sporting at home, we've seen us get stomped on at home against Sporting, right? We all witnessed it, 3-0, 3-0 or 3-1 with Rui Vitória. So it's happened and it's possible. I think Friday's game is going to dictate a lot of what comes out of that game. Jay, how are you feeling about that game on Friday? What do you have to add here?
To be honest, I really don't want to add anything else. I think you guys pretty much covered it all. I will say that I totally agree that we need to kind of turn the page and move on, and hopefully we need to get a result. Like I know you mentioned a tie. Like I think they need to get a W.
Oh, we definitely need to get a W.
Like
we can't.
I'm just saying. Like I just think that to my opinion, the way that they were playing, if they want to convince the fans again, they need to win and like convincingly.
I agree.
They need to ball the fuck out because that was terrible. Florentino, you mentioned Florentino, Enzo, complete shit. Like complete shit. To me, that's where we lost the game. And then Arta was having a fucking field day in there. So
their midfield just completely outplayed us.
The two brothers, I'm just saying, the two brothers were just fucking killing us.
And Musrati was basically just stopping everything. Like nothing was getting through their midfield.
That midfield was phenomenal. They had a right game plan for us. I just thought that Enzo came out like shit. Like I really haven't been following up.
Enzo played like someone that didn't want to play.
Right, exactly. That was going to be your problem pretty soon.
We'll get into that. Let's quickly go through here the comments. Red Baron says the elimination against Moreirense, I think, played a role. We sat for 2 weeks instead of playing that additional game that would have gotten us more game ready against Braga. That's a point. They had a long stoppage. But I will say against Moreirense, even though we tied, and people I feel like were acting like the sky was falling after that draw,
on them.
We got eliminated from the Taça Liga on goal difference. We didn't lose that game. It felt like a loss, but I mean, we created like 20 goddamn chances and we just could not find the back of the net. They had one penalty and that was it. Like they had a shot off the crossbar, I believe. But apart from that, like we were all over them. We just couldn't find the back of the net. But I agree. I think a culmination of the stoppage of games that weren't really motivating. I mean, you're playing a Penafiel, you're playing a Moreirense. Who was the other team in our Estrela da Amadora? Right? Like you're playing those teams for the guys that stayed back. Like, no disrespect, but like some of your teammates are playing in the World Cup. You know, there's a lot more engagement in those games, and like here you are playing against Estrela da Amadora or Penafiel. Right? Like I feel like it's a culmination of all that stuff. Joanina says the reason it's so devastating is because how good they were doing. If they were winning, playing mediocre, it wouldn't be as much of a disappointment, but they were so solid and now just got shot on a team that just lost 5-0 to Sporting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was going to bring that up too. So she brings up a good point, right? Like look at our rivals, especially Sporting had just beat them a few weeks back 5-0. Porto's been dominating. Yes, they're weaker opponents. I get that we were playing Braga and they came to they showed up.
Yep.
But like I'll play the other side of the fence, right? Like I said earlier, a lot of this can snowball very, very quickly and start accumulating. We can even go back to the Moreirense game in the Taça da Liga and be like, maybe that's where the downfall started, right? Like, I feel like we can't get complacent, right? I've said this on the podcast, like getting complacent, shit like this happens, and then all of a sudden your 7-point lead or whatever it is turns into shit. Now we're back to back, and like I want the cushion. I want there's still a lot of ball left.
Yep.
I want the cushion all the way through. And we were in good position, and it would suck to lose out on that. And again, I mean, we're going to talk about the transfer market after, but like again, let's not get complacent. Like we're on top. Let's not just be like, oh, everything's good. Like let's just keep it status quo. Like if you have an opportunity to even do better and get better and play better, then do it. Don't just sit back and be like, oh, whatever. It was inevitable. It's just one game. Like, no, I don't want to look at it that way because we've seen it. Again, I'll go back to the 29. I was just looking at it here. 2019, 2020. Probably, I think we forget how good we were at the beginning of that season. We were killing teams 4-0, 5-0. Like, we weren't even getting scored on. The only loss.
JJ?
No, it was with
Bruno
Lage's last season when he got sacked at the end.
Yeah.
We only had one loss against Porto.
Yep.
All the other games were 5-0. Again, like we were tons of clean sheets, 4-0 results all over the place. And then we lost after the return back. We lost to Porto.
Santa Clara.
Oh yeah, Braga. No,
Santa Clara was the first game after the break. We lost at home, 4-2, 4-3.
The first round we only lost to Porto. That's right.
Correct.
First round we only lost to Porto.
Where's Santa Clara? I don't even see Santa Clara here.
The game was in like April, I think.
Are you looking at 2019, 2020? Yeah, 19, 20.
Yeah, that was Lage's last season.
Oh, Santa Clara. Yeah. There it is.
4-2, 4-3, 4-3. Yeah.
Yep. And like, it's kind of to me very reminiscent to that same type of break, right? It was like a month long or almost a month long.
A little bit longer, yeah.
I mean, that's like a new, a pretty recent case study here of like how we did not return well, and Porto dominated after that return. Like they were crushing it. So
and Porto lost points in that first game too.
That
Porto
first game,
Porto had played the day before us, and I believe they lost away to Famalicão, if I'm not mistaken, or tied. And then we lost the next day against Santa Clara at home. So I don't disagree. I know that Sporting had just beat Braga 5-0. I'm going to play the other side of the fence here as well. Braga in the Taça da Liga, knowing that they got a game coming up against Benfica at home after the break with a huge opportunity to stamp themselves in the league, right? Where do you think they're going to be more motivated? Do you think they had an eye on that game? Like, you know what? And especially Sporting fucking dumped on them in the first half.
They started everyone.
I think Sporting scored all 5 goals in the first half.
I just looked at Braga's lineup. There was like 5 or 6 differences from the lineup that played us. Horta didn't play at all.
Well, some of the guys that played against us, some of the guys that didn't play against us are normal starters. They just, like Vitinha normally starts. Benza, surprised didn't start. So there was a few changes, but I don't disagree. Obviously we can't be complacent. Obviously it's just a 5-point gap. One game, one bad result changes a lot, right? Even though we have the head-to-head against Porto right now, it changes a lot. And like you said, Kenny, as we've seen, and Oscar and you guys, all it takes is one bad result, 2 bad results, and then the team starts second guessing themselves, right? Like, are we really going to fucking shit the bed again, right? Is this really happening? So,
but I also think that team morale is something in that locker room too. Like, how are the players reacting of this like news about Enzo and all that? Like, maybe that affected the game. Like, I don't know. I just think that I just don't want this to snowball into like what you guys, Kenny's thinking, where we're good, like Oscar's saying that we're just falling off the cliff. I just want to push it as one bad game.
Oscar has his parachute on already.
I'm not riding the bus. I mean, I'm on the bus, but I'm not driving the bus anymore.
Listen, you were driving at the beginning of the season.
No. I gave that up in 2020.
What do you mean?
Whatever.
I'm pretty sure Kenny was driving at the beginning of the season. I'm not driving.
Kenny can't drive.
I'll drive. I'll drive.
All right. Yeah, I can't drive. I crashed the bus last year. Red Baron says we need to go into Sporting game at least 5 points ahead, no doubt. And in order for us to go 5 points ahead, we have to win against Portimonense, which is an absolute must-win. No ifs, ands, or buts. A game at home against Portimonense is an absolute must-win. Jonia says yes, but it's one less piece of hardware that we can't win now. I get it, right? Like, the Taça da Liga is always that competition that no one cares about until you win it, right? Benfica's won it a lot. We haven't won it in a few years. If you're going to discard one competition,
exactly,
I think we're all going to agree that of all the competitions we can win, the Taça Liga is the least important. Now, does that mean that I want to go in and lose?
Want it all.
Agreed. Does it mean that I want to go in and lose and be like, I don't care? Of course not. But like, if Benfica gets knocked out of the Taça Liga, I'm not going to be like, fuck, it's a nightmare, right? Like, it's a disaster of a season. No. Now, if it was the Taça de Portugal, 100%, right? Like, for me, Taça de Portugal and the Campeonato are the 2 most important things that Benfica should always strive to win. Taça Liga, for me, is like a bonus, like a nice to have. For me, it's not a must have. That's just my opinion.
But out of the big 3 teams, we're the only ones out already of the competition.
Correct. Yep. Braga's still, Porto's still in it. Sporting's still in it. I get it. Yeah. Right. And
yeah, I agree. Yeah, you have an obligation to get to that next phase.
I don't disagree.
Final 4 or whatever.
But we literally got eliminated on 2. We got eliminated with 7 points on goal difference by 1 goal.
But Mike, who do we play?
I know we played Penafiel.
So there's no excuse. I don't give a shit.
I'm not saying there's an excuse.
There's no excuse. Our B team should have beat those teams.
I 100% agree with you.
We need to fucking stock up on depth.
I 100% agree with you. What I was saying is, unfortunately, it's the reality of some players and some teams have that mindset of like, this game's not as important. And we didn't take some game. Like, I think we beat Estrela da Amadora 4-3 or 4-2 or something. It was a tight game. We beat Penafiel 2-0.
And we conceded goals. And this is why I always say Benfica 2-1, 3-1, because we always concede goals. I don't know what the hell is going on, but it's always been conceding goals. Like that goal Estrela da Amadora scored against us 95th minute is basically what knocked us out.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yep.
And it was a stupid goal, and it was a Morato mistake, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Joaninha says, what's worse, losing to Braga or now being out of the Taça? For me, it's losing to Braga, 100%.
Losing to Braga, yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree. Kenny, Jay, Oscar? What's worse, losing to Braga or being out of the Taça?
At this phase right here?
At this stage, I wouldn't mind.
I kind of wouldn't mind because we have to lose it one time, right? And then fine, we let that go, but at least still be in the competition to win a trophy. I think losing the trophy or getting knocked out is probably worse.
Yeah,
I would go the other way. For
I
me,
would have liked to be in the toss. Like I know it's not a top priority, but it would be nice to like win all three, right? Like I think we should have an obligation to at least like get to the final, right?
I agree. I'm pretty sure that was one of the requirements to get there. But if I had to choose, I think losing to Braga is worse than being out of the Taça Liga. Now, if you said the Taça de Portugal, I would say being out of the Taça de Portugal is worse than losing to Braga. Joaninha says I agree with Oscar.
Oh, I want all the trophies.
So do I. Segue into this. And I'm going to start with Oscar because I got a conspiracy theory brewing here for you, Oscar, and I know that you're going to be all about it. Again, performance-wise, one of the worst performances we've seen, or the worst performance we've seen. Now, I think where we lost that game was in the midfield. And before the game, there was already the conversation of Enzo and Chelsea and Liverpool and Man United and whoever else was knocking at the door, waving a big stack of cash and wanting to take him away. There was rumors that Enzo wouldn't start. He would start. There was uncertainty. Fact is, he started. There was rumors that came out after the fact that he didn't want to play. I don't know what the motive was. That I didn't read the article. I don't know if it was because he didn't want to play because he was checked out or because he didn't feel like he was physically fit. Either way, I saw that Roger Schmidt and Rui Costa convinced him to start. Truth be told, physically he was there. Everything else was not. Like, he just was jogging around. He wasn't really doing anything. He wasn't engaged. He didn't do anything. Florentino beside him was not engaged. And here's where the question's going to come for you, Oscar, is do you think if in fact Enzo didn't want to play, do you think that was a message from the team based on the performance that we saw? Because in my eyes, and I think we all agree, the level of performance of that game was significantly below what we've seen from the team collectively and individually. We've all praised Tinu how much on this podcast all season, and he looked so out of his depth. I don't know what the hell was going on with him. And he's a guy that's been playing regularly, right? Like, he wasn't at the World Cup, but he was playing. He's been practicing. The team as a whole looked terrible. Do you think that if that was the case, that was a message from the team to say, you know what, fuck you, right? Like, go fuck yourself. You don't want to be here. Peace out. And we're going to send a message. And they basically, laid down and said, fuck off. This guy thinks he's better than all of us. We're going to send a message.
That's a dumb conspiracy theory.
If Enzo
some crazy ones, but that
hold on. So if Enzo doesn't play on Friday, and Benfica looks back to the normal on Friday, what are you going to say?
The Portimonense is a lot worse than Braga.
Then it was just a speed bump.
It was a speed to me. Yeah. It was a speed bump to me. It's Braga scoring a lot early and Benfica not reacting the way they should. I mean, we've been from behind or winning from behind a few games already this year, so it shouldn't be news to us. But the way we reacted to Braga scoring first and Braga never letting go of the pedal, they just kept going forward, is what surprised me that Benfica didn't have a reaction. Enzo not wanted to play. I personally thought, and I knew I had a feeling about Enzo coming back from the World Cup, especially after winning the Young Player Award and all that he was going to be a total different. It's going to affect the locker room and it's going to affect his head because he's a young kid thinking that he's better than everybody else, right?
But I said that affects the locker room. It doesn't affect them on the field.
Affects the locker room, meaning like if a kid comes into the locker room and brags about him winning the World Cup and then being young, he should be better than Benfica, whatever. On the field, Benfica still wants to win. I don't think they played bad to lose on purpose.
Yeah, I think the only thing on the field that you would notice would be guys not wanting to
pass him the ball.
Like, fuck you, I'm not going to play it to you. I'll play a 30-yard ball to someone else instead of playing to you 5 yards away.
That I can see. We saw that in Real Madrid when Benzema had issues with Vinny. You never pass him the ball or told people not to pass him the ball and all the bullshit, right? So like, when they have an issue with a guy, it's more of like, I won't pass you the ball, right? But in this case, I think the team just performed horrible, and I don't think it had to do with "fuck you, Enzo. You think you're better than us? We're gonna suck on purpose so you look bad." because they all look bad, and it affects all their images, not only Enzo's.
Okay. And before I pass it to everyone else, I'm going to ask you, what's your take on this whole situation, Oscar?
My take on what situation here.
Yeah, does
Let
he,
Enzo-
should we,
Enzo
should we let
transfer
him
saga.
go? Should we let him stay? I
Dude,
will say that
Look
based
at my
on what we know,
Look at my name.
based on what I know, but the people that listen after the fact can't see your name. His hashtag
No,
is Enzo Rua. But hold on, quickly. From the information that we know from a very reliable source, the deal is done. Enzo Fernandez has been sold. It's now just a matter of fine tuning some of the details in terms of valuations for intermediaries and the transfer process being done. Once all is said and done with fees and paying River Plate for the 25% that they still own, Benfica will be left with 75 million. It's just a matter of figuring out what the breakdown of the payments will be. They're not going to pay, Chelsea's not going to pay the full amount. I think the full amount ends up being like 127 million plus 10 million in bonuses. They won't be paying the 70, or they won't be paying the amount up front. That's part of the negotiation.
I think that's where we get the shit end of the stick.
We do know that Rui Costa was not happy. He did want to keep him till the end of the season. Enzo did not want to stay. He broke the rules of the team. He went back to Argentina for New Year's when, Roger Schmidt verbalized it in his press conference, saying that, the rules for everyone. And he still went. He missed practice. He was finally back today, but he definitely won't be playing again. He's on his way out. It's just a matter of finalizing everything. And we'll also say that the Norwegian kid, I don't know how to say his name, but he's coming from I can't remember the name of the team off the top of my head, but I'll find it. But he's a winger that he has touchdown in Portugal today, and expected to be announced in the coming days.
Yo, next time you have news like this, you should have like breaking news, pow, 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 like something, dude. That's like nice information. Holy shit.
I'll wait.
With that said, Oscar, what's your take on this?
No.
Hold on. Also, I like how you have the oranges in the background. It like accents your shirt. It's nice. I just realized it. The other side, it like matches. Go carry on.
Trying to. No, but Enzo, I loved Enzo from the he had us onto Benfica. Benfica hasn't seen probably since the other Enzo, right? Like he's a full midfielder. He's a guy that box to box that we all wanted last year, that we've been wanting for the last 3 years, right? He added something that I absolutely love. The perfume that he played with, it's unbelievable. Like he added soccer looked
Perfume.
Cologne or perfume?
Cologne,
Perfume.
whatever you want. But a lot soccer,
Sexy.
Soccer looked amazing since he's been on with Benfica, right? But what he did is no turning back. And I kind of feel what Rui Costa is going through, because he probably wants to keep him. He probably could have said no to Chelsea for the deal because they have to pay up front, right? In order to them to take it in January. And he can't right now because of what he's done. He's basically taken all the trust from the rest of the teammates. I guarantee there's nobody handshaking him when he came back today, other than
I fucking hope not. I
Right.
hope Otamendi told him to fuck off.
Right.
Headbutted him.
But the thing is, they're just what he did is no turning back. And I think Rui Costa now is stuck having to agree on terms that he doesn't want to agree with. So this kid fucked us. And
he forced our hand.
To me is let him go, collect whatever you can, the max you can for this fucking kid. And I hope he has a horrible career.
Bam.
So
and fuck FIFA and Argentina and Messi and all of them, right?
And by the way, Mike, are you still glad Argentina won?
Listen, my preference for Argentina to win had nothing to do with Otamendi or Enzo.
I did say if Argentina wins, this is going to happen.
But you said both. You said the mindset for the two
both.
of them. You didn't say just Enzo.
Wait, we don't know Otamendi. You never know what's going on. Otamendi
Bro,
might stick up for Enzo. You never know.
Otamendi came back, and from all accounts, is falling right back into the good soldier he is.
What did Oscar say in the chat? He's still a Porto fan.
Yeah.
That was me.
That was a fake conspiracy. It was a fake conspiracy. Jay, what were you gonna say?
So I was like one of those people that wanted, like, remember we had a chat in our chat. I was not arguing, but like saying that I would try to renegotiate him, pay him what he need to, raise his clause. Like I just wanted to keep him, right? But like that was my intention of saying all that stuff. And now after all this fiasco going on and him leaving and not taking orders, I'm with Oscar. Like, let him go, get what we can. $75 million for 3 months is pretty fucking good. It sucks. I think the downfall is what you said. We're not going to get it in full, but I think regardless, the money's going to help. We can reinvest. Hopefully, we will, because Enzo, like Oscar said, he had this perfume. I don't know what kind, but to me, he had that swag in the midfield. He brought it, and I enjoyed watching him play. Even in the World Cup, I enjoyed watching him play. I think he's a phenomenal player. It just sucks that it ended the way it did here at Benfica. And like you guys always say, and I agree, no one is bigger than the club itself. So if it's the money talks too. So like I said, let him go and fuck him.
Agree. Red Baron says he's got to go. Mino balneario todo. True. Joining us are also different ages and at different points in their careers in reference to Otamendi and Enzo. Red Baron says, hope we play him in Champions League and he tears an ACL. Oscar, is this your burner account?
I like that.
I said break his leg.
Break his leg.
On his first game, not in the Champions League. I don't want to wait until Champions League. I hope the first game.
Dave, our buddy Dave, the Braga fan, he must be very excited. That's a lot of money. Musrati an option. We're gonna hold this question
Dave.
for after. We're gonna
Dave
hold this question for after,
and
Dave, because we want to talk
call
about
Dave,
the
game.
The links in the chat on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. If you want to jump in and join the conversation, give us your thoughts. By all means, feel free. Kenny, I know that you were going to say something, and I'm going to add to this, which is, are you guys surprised, given his age, of the reaction, right? And I know that people, I've seen people saying, like, you know, he stayed at River Plate for the rest of the season so he could finish the Libertadores. Why didn't do that with Benfica? The reality is that he was formed at River Plate. He has a different connection to River Plate than he has with Benfica. Benfica, he said it from the beginning, was a stepping stone into Europe. Did we expect this to happen? No. Did we expect him to blow up in 3.5 months? I don't think so, right? But 18 million investment to, at the end of the day, turning it around into 75 million, I think is good business. It sucks losing a player like this, but a club like any club in Portugal can't turn down this much money. Do we wish the circumstance was different? Yes. But even if he was happy and showed up on time, but was preferring to leave, Benfica can't say no, right? Like, you can't have a player against his wanting to stay. And again, like, how do you turn away that? Like, that's a lot of cash for a Portuguese team. Kenny.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like you said, he has no ties to Benfica. So he came here, good stepping stone. Otamendi's on the team. They obviously have a bond. They went to everything kind of just worked out for him these short months. He never, honestly, he obviously broke the rules, right? Went back to Argentina for the New Year's. He clearly didn't want to leave Argentina. He wanted to stay there. He came for the game and went right back. So his head wasn't in it. Like, it's very clear to me. And he was already gone. He was already working on this deal and trying to get it done. So I agree with what Oscar and Jason and all of you guys are saying, that he has to go. I just don't like this idea of, I feel like we're getting screwed on the price. Yeah, it's a big sum of money, but let's think about it this way. Chelsea's most likely going to get the player for a third of the cost, right? If, let's just say, they break these payments up into three annual payments.
3 payments.
let's just say they're 3 annual payments, they're going to get the player for a year for a third of the cost and all the rights to the player. Where like, we had to pay 80% or whatever it was to River Plate to get, to get him to come on. And Chelsea literally only pays a third of the price to get him for a Champions League run. And let's just assume that's an annual payment, right? So I would structure this to get at least 51% up front. Like I wouldn't settle for anything less. At least that way they have.
The problem is he went back to Argentina.
I don't give, but that's the thing. Like, I don't give a shit.
Are you gonna?
I'll bring it.
Problem is, are you gonna keep him? Go ahead.
I'll bring it back to look. To me, this is where Rui Costa has to put his foot down too. Like I'll tell you right now, there were times when Luis Vieira, he put his foot down on certain contracts and certain transfers, and he made things work out in the end. Like Rui Costa, to me, should put his foot down and get at least 51% of the passo up front, not a third. And that, like in 3 years to pay off a player that most likely maybe Chelsea then turns it around after the third year, fourth year, and makes money off of that as well. Like to me, I think that's where the shit end of the stick on that.
I don't know. We don't know the structure of the payment or the timeline of
it's
it.
assumptions. Yeah,
but I agree. I think we should get more up front. I'll add to that, but Bill, finish your thought.
I think the problem is.
Hold on, let Bill finish his thought. I
was going to say something just to Kenny.
I think the problem is, right? Like, I agree. I think we should get more up front, but he left, right? He didn't want to come back to begin with. He came back for the game, didn't want to play, left. It's public that he left. He was taking photos with his fucking agent, posting them to social media, right? He's, from all accounts, has told Chelsea he's not playing for us and he wants to go to Chelsea. He's essentially forced our hand. We have no bargaining chip. If we say no to Chelsea,
still have some bargaining chip.
If we say no to Chelsea, are you going to bring a player that doesn't want to be on the team into that locker room or into any locker room?
On the 21, on the 23. Put him in the
that's
fucking
easy.
No, but what's he going to do there?
It's easy. Desperate for a player right now.
Bro, it's easy to say that, right? He's one of our highest earners. You're going to put him on the B team or under 21s to then never get your investment back.
Oh, no,
but I don't think the concern is. I don't think
if we do that to him, if we say no to Chelsea, stick him on the B team or stick him on the U21s, you think he's ever going to do anything to make his way back up to the first team?
Well,
I think at that point he's saying, "Fuck you! I'll run out my fucking contract and I'll figure out where I can go after that."
That's a loss for him.
That's 4 years.
He would probably end up buying himself out. I think the bigger concern,
but he'll find a way out. He'll find his way out.
I think the bigger concern is
he'll do an interview with Piers Morgan and find his way out.
But I think the bigger issue isn't sending him. I don't think the issue is sending him to the B team or the Sub-23. I think the bigger issue is if he's already unhappy on the A team, what do you think he's going to do to the locker room for the younger kids, right? Like he's going to be even a worse
influence for
asset
kids
to that team, right? A terrible influence, right? So like I wouldn't want him there either. Jay,
put him on the side. Train by yourself.
I mean,
but you would have to learn a lesson. If he stayed behind, if Rui Costa put his foot down and be like, you know what, because you're a dick and because I'm not getting what I want, I'm saying no to this deal, and you're gonna be training by yourself. Could be for a month, could be for 2 months until he works his way out.
How can Benfica say no to $130 million?
Do you think we can?
I think there'll be another team that will come and pay.
But why can't Chelsea
if he sits for 6 months and doesn't play on the first team, there is no fucking team in the world that's going to come knocking and pay anywhere near the 100 million.
You don't think Real Madrid would?
But he wouldn't. If he doesn't play for 6 months, then no one's going to come pay anything near what we're getting now.
Never say never, man.
You don't think any other club will pay the 120 right now in January?
Yep.
No.
Right now, no, because of the financial fair play.
Yeah.
120 million is going to be the largest ever transfer fee in the Premier League. Think about that. The largest ever transfer fee in the Premier League. And it'll be the 5th most expensive transfer in world soccer.
Yeah.
In January. That's a huge sum of money. There's no team. Go ahead.
But what I can't wrap my head around is it's I don't know how we don't know how the payments are being structured.
Correct.
But it's being saying that's three payments, right? They're being structured into 3 payments. How it's split up, we don't know.
But we can get 2 of those payments this year. The key to it here is Chelsea needs to adhere to financial fair play.
Yep.
So if they make a payment now and then they make a payment in the 23-24 season, which would be between August and December, we could get 2 of those payments this year. So even if it is 3 payments, we could get 2 of those payments this year.
Okay, so depending on how it's structured, right? But like I'm going under the assumption that you're getting a third of the cost. You're essentially loaning out the player, and I mean you own the player. You're just loaning him out for half a season. I think that's bullshit. Like if it's structured that way, where you get two payments, within
this calendar
a
year,
6-month period, then fine. But if not, I feel like, I mean, to wait to get your third payment 3 years down the road, I think that's.
I don't think it would take. I don't think
it's
it'll
one
take that
every year.
long.
Yeah, I want to see how that gets
if it's the way Mike's saying, it'll probably be a year and a half to get the full payment.
That's what I'm going to assume, because again, the key here is, and if you guys have been following Chelsea's purchases, I mean, they're literally like playing football manager in real life. Like those guys are just, Todd Bowley's just going fucking on the map and like, here. All right, let's buy this guy. Like they're buying everything right now.
Yeah, and to talk about financial fair play, like I don't think that whole bullshit, because they're over there buying everyone. So I don't give a shit.
Correct. There's loopholes, of course.
There's loopholes to it.
Of course, there's loopholes. I mean, PSG got around it and everything.
Cash.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't.
Yeah.
My hope here is that I agree with Bill. I think that we have very little leverage because the player is clearly unhappy, right? And you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you keep a player that's unhappy, that doesn't want to be there and isn't going to be an asset to this team and potentially poisons that locker room? Or do you try to negotiate the best deal you can for a fee that's astronomical and no team in Portugal can say no to? It's difficult, right? But I'm of the opinion, I'm like you guys, right? Like, fuck him, let him rot on the B team, whatever.
Oh, I would love
send
to
a message. Send a message. But we're not a team that's financially stable enough to be able to make an example of someone that expensive. If this is a $20 million transfer, 100%, fuck it, we can take that chance. 120 million, I don't think we could take that chance.
No, I agree, and I would take the latter too. I want to see how those payments are laid out.
I agree. I hope we don't get screwed on the structure of the payments.
If he hadn't come and had those reports of him not wanting to play, and him, if he had stayed for the New Year's, like, yeah, I think we have a little more leverage at that point. Even if behind the scenes he tells Chelsea, yeah, I want to come. But I think like him essentially going against the club and doing what he wants to do and against the club rules kind of shows Chelsea like wait it out, because Benfica can't hold on to him. They're not going to, like, it's pointless for us to hold on to this guy and have him potentially rot the locker room.
What Ricardo Horta did is total opposite of what this guy did. Ricardo Horta basically did his job.
He could have forced his way out.
He could have done the same thing as Enzo. Forced himself, like, listen, I want to go. He made it clear. But he did his job. He was there getting paid by Braga, and he stayed to play for Braga, right? Enzo is basically what I consider one of those.
He's estrangeiro.
He's a. I think there's a word for him, and I don't want to say it online.
I think it ties into what you had said earlier, and I think someone said it in the comments as well, right? Like, and I think Kenny had said it. His age, right? His agent, for example, I think Enzo's probably his only player. And if he's not, he's obviously the most impactful player for it. Like,
imagine the agent fees.
The agent 100% is pushing for this as well. Like, listen, you're going to go make 2-3 times the salary. You're going to get, I saw something like a $10 million sign-on bonus for Enzo. The agent's going to get paid huge amount of money that he's going to get for this transfer. Life-changing. Like,
is it Mins tied to this too?
So they're saying that Mins was asked
brought on
to be involved by Chelsea to kind of be involved in it and help move it along. I'm sure he's getting a percentage.
I mean, he doesn't do anything for free.
Correct. But again, like, for Enzo's agent, like this, if Enzo wasn't already in love with the money floating around, his agent is like, dude, you need to take this deal. Like, you're going to get paid big bucks. I'm going to get paid. We're all going to be happy. You'll be in the Premier League. I don't have to work anymore. Life is great, right? So, like, the people that are going to surround him, I think, also have a huge impact in this decision if he was ever in doubt, which I don't think he was. But again, we knew this was a stepping stone for him.
Right. And Ricardo Horta is like, there's ties
different phase but they're also different phases in their career, right? Like Enzo's 19, Ricardo Duarte is 27, right? So like I think Ricardo Duarte is a little bit more mature to know how shit works and is like, am I gonna burn a bridge? Right? He's not gonna let me go, right? Where Enzo's like, fuck it, right? Like,
but just with the ties to the clubs too. Like he's
correct.
been at Braga forever.
Exactly. He's the captain.
Like this Enzo's been here for 3 months. He's like
correct.
he has no ties to this country,
none at all.
anyone here,
None
right?
whatsoever.
It's not. I think that's where the major piece of it is.
Yeah, Jay, what are you gonna say?
And his what? I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend. Like his family's still in Argentina. Like he clearly wasn't planning to be here for super long. He didn't move anyone. He came by himself. Like his family all stayed back in Argentina.
Jay,
I just think that remember reading it during the summer when we were trying to sign him. He didn't even want to come here, or it was one of his options, but he preferred to go to Italy. I believe it was AC Milan, if I'm not mistaken.
AC Milan was involved in the.
But I just felt like it's like what you guys just said. He had no ties. I just felt like he kind of took Benfica as a legitimate stepping stone. He found his glory.
And he said it.
Balled out, and he wanted to go to a bigger platform, and now he's getting it.
Yep. Red Baron said Kenny Lucifer sold everything. Enzo Perez and Matic sold in January.
I'd have to look up examples. There's other examples too. I'm not saying he didn't sell everyone, but.
João Gomes says abraço dos Açores e ao Benfica. Abraço para ti, João. Já é tarde aí desse lado. Mas abraço e obrigado por participares aqui nesta nossa conversa. Dave, our buddy, Braga fan, says it's a lot of money. Al Musrati is an option. Now, when we talk about the January transfer window, the guy that Benfica supposedly has signed and has arrived in Portugal today, his name is Schejelderup.
Oh boy, that's gonna be.
I can't wait to hear
that.
I can't wait for the Portuguese
nickname. We gotta find a nickname.
Let me see where he actually plays. He plays in the Danish league, and I know that logo, but I don't remember the name of the team. But he's a winger, 18 years old, huge margin of progression. I think I had seen something like 10 million or 12 million with add-on bonuses. And this is the key, which I think is a good thing that Benfica is doing and Rui Costa is doing, is in order for us to keep the transfer fees costs low, we're willing to give a percentage to the team for them to keep, with the teams knowing that Benfica's ability to sell high is very good. So it's an incentive for the team to say, you know what, let's sell them for less. We keep a percentage knowing that in 1-2 years, they can turn this around for a huge sale. So if those numbers are accurate, I think that's a good purchase, especially for the age and the hype that comes with him. Red Baron says, is that for real? He's in Portugal. Again, from the source that we have, which is a very good source, I'm not going to name any names, but a very good source told us today that he did touch down in Portugal today. So expect for him to be announced in the coming days. So Al Musrati is someone that's been thrown around in the last year. I don't know what you guys think. We're going to obviously need another midi. Obviously, Auschwitz slides into that center midfield role. I like him a lot. I thought he looked really good in the second half when he started to play more central. He's a very versatile player, can play wide, but I prefer to see him central. He's a different type of player than Enzo is. But I do think, obviously, we need to get some reinforcements. There's rumors of some Koksu or something like that, a Turkish player, Turkish international from Feyenoord. I think it's interesting that we're pushing that region of the world for transfers. Obviously, a region that Roger Schmidt's going to know well, and it's a region that we typically haven't explored very often. And it's a different type of player as well. So it's interesting to see that. But do you guys think Al Musrati would be a legitimate option? Would he be a good player for Benfica? Of course. Would he? I'm not convinced that Antonio Salvador wants to do business with Benfica. Yeah, I've seen people say, I know, Jay, you had said in the group chat, go get the Horta brothers. I would be willing to say that if Benfica went and said, hey, we want Al Musrati and Ricardo Horta, Salvador would be like, fine, 70 million.
I mean,
Do you
so
do you guys think it's a reasonable
Wait,
option?
wait a minute.
no, if I'm picking anyone from Braga, it's Horta. I'm not like Musrati can sit back. My target from Braga is Ricardo Horta, and if
You
they're
had
not
to
willing,
choose, if Braga said
Yeah,
you can take one or the
100%
other, you'd prioritize Horta over
100%,
Musrati?
Horta,
100%.
100%.
I have a question. Would you straight out flat trade Enzo for Maserati and Ricardo Horta?
Huh? Say that again.
Foda-se com os negócios.
No, a trade. Legit, be like, you take
Right.
Enzo, give
No.
me Maserati and Ricardo Horta.
And
You're
bring in
leaving.
that Horta too.
You're
No, no,
leaving like $100
Kind of
million
money
on
on
the
Wait,
table.
I'm just asking, like, what
No.
would
Two for
those
one.
two make Benfica
No.
better, or Enzo Fernandez make Benfica better?
No, I wouldn't make that trade.
I would not.
I
do
wouldn't
that.
make the trade, but I don't think it's a bad trade.
I mean, if you're saying the
We're
Enzo,
losing in
Enzo that's mad at Benfica for not letting him
No,
go to
no,
Chelsea,
dude.
No, I'll take
We're
two players for one.
I think
I don't.
that in those two we had we definitely need a
Ricardo Horta
winger.
has a goal in him.
And
He
a
has- he
goal,
scores goals.
and he can play across the front,
Yeah.
the middle, everywhere, right? And Maserati is a guy that we saw Florentino
Add
and now
depth.
losing Enzo. That Maserati guy is fucking reminds me of Danilo, like a Portuguese Danilo, right? He's that guy in the midfield,
He's good.
a tank,
And
he's
he's
a tank.
young.
And 26 years old. I would make that trade. I would think those two add more value to Benfica than Enzo. And Enzo is nasty. I do not.
I mean, yeah, there are two players that could absolutely start, right? So obviously you get rid of one and you get two potential starters. I think obviously it adds a dynamic to the team. But then I'm going to ask you this. I think Al Musrati probably goes into the starting 11, although Florentino and him are similar. So you're going to sit Florentino alongside
No, but-
Auschwitz?
No, I'll put.
You
I
can't
don't
play.
think-
You can't play
Rotation.
Al Musrati and Tino as the starters. You're
Rotation.
basically
Then we're
fucking
getting-
parking the ball.
We're getting into the argument of us
That's why I
saying
would go
Fernandez
get
Trincos
Horta over
for
Maserati.
playing two Trincos.
Yeah, but Maserati would play the same position as Enzo. Like you'll stay play there.
But he's not the same type of
He's
player.
not. He's not the same type.
He's not
He's
the
a
same type of
Trinco.
player. He's a
Old school
Trinco.
Trinco.
Yeah, Enzo's a different type of player. Enzo creates from deep. Al Musrati's not that type of player. But the other question I'm going to ask you is, Ricardo Horta, who sits for Ricardo Horta?
Well, Neres is fragile.
But if Neres is fit, do you play Neres or do you play Ricardo Horta?
Depends who's fitter.
Right.
Now I got you
flip,
thinking.
You flip a coin.
No,
It depends
I-
on- it
Because
depends
You're
on
not
who
sitting
has
Rafa.
Mike, it all depends on who has the better perfume that day.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
whoever like Ricardo Horta has been unbelievable. Like he would have to start.
You don't think he
So-
could play? He could go box to box, Ricardo Horta?
What, in Enzo's spot?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You don't think
I
so?
probably
He
move
needs
João
to be-
Mário
He's-
there.
He's a winger or number 10.
But then and they've talked about João Mário more central, but we lose a lot with João Mário being central. He doesn't have that motor, the ability to carry the ball like an Enzo
Facts.
does or a player like that, right? So,
I think
I-
if Ricardo Horta was to come in, it would have to be like with the knowledge of he might not start every single game. He's going to be like he's going to get his chances, but like
No chance.
Dude,
I think if Horta comes to the team, he starts.
yeah, but who?
do you
Look
sit,
at who you're
though?
going to take out exactly. Like
Well,
Is it
you-
João
you have-
Mário?
you have to-
You're asking
and
my
I
opinion. I think he starts. And who I think Neres sits.
You might have to change
Okay.
the formation.
that's fine if you think, but that's like, I'll accept
Right.
that, right?
Like,
Ned's
you
over
gave a
Ricardo
person.
Horta.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think he plays central. Dave says João Mário to the bench and Rafa behind the striker. I mean, Rafa's been playing behind the striker the whole time. Ned
You
is
can do
wide,
that
and
too.
then
Exactly.
João
You can do
Mário
that.
wide.
No, and those guys are flexible. They move to the wide. They move to the central.
and Arthur
João
Phillips,
Mário and Rafa have a good chemistry together, and I think that you can't set any of those.
We've been
Rafa and
praising
Mário.
João Mario all season.
No, you're not going
and
to.
now we're just going to say sit him because we got Ricardo Horta. Like, come on.
Listen, I don't like you don't. So
It's a good problem to have, right? Like it's
I
one of
wanna
those things
have
where
that
like
problem.
it's a good fucking problem to have, right? Like you have
Yeah.
quality players.
Well, we don't
It's
have
a
that
good-
problem right now.
You
Right,
could
right.
rotate
I
them.
want-
You
I
can
want that
rotate them
problem.
and
I
play
want that
less
problem.
minutes.
Well,
I agree.
Guys are more flexible during the
Draxler was
season.
supposed to come in and give us a headache, and he hasn't given me one headache.
Right.
He's giving me a
I
lot
It's
of
giving me a
headaches.
headache of not playing well.
It's been bad.
But like, I kind of agree with what Kenny's saying. We need to get more depth so we can rotate these players. So by the end of the season, that they're fresher than what like Rafa wastes all his energy midway through the season. Then he's all gassed up towards the end. I would rather have Rafa miss a game here and there and have a backup like Horta and then next game João Mario misses a game, and then next game like you just rotate him. Like,
well, and that's like I said, like Horta, if he comes in, has to be with the expectation that you're not an automatic starter. It's going to be like a rotational thing. You're going to get your minutes, but it's going to be when we're rotating the squad.
That'll be fine. He's coming to Benfica.
Right.
You would know that. I mean, let's not forget.
If you tell him he's going to play every 3 out of 4 games, he'll come.
Like João Mario gassed out last year. Ned is proven to be fragile. Like you easily need a rotation there towards the end.
And Florentino is like if he starts sucking, who do we have to put there?
Right. Yeah. That's why we need to like invest this transfer market.
So what would you say? I'm going to go around the table here, Kenny. What are the spots that you think we so let's say Enzo's gone.
Position.
What are the positions that you think we are must-haves in January?
Absolute winger. It looks like we already signed one. A midfielder and a forward. I think defensively.
What type of midfielder are you looking for?
I would
Enzo
want.
Type?
I want.
More defensive-minded, more offensive-minded.
I guess it would be hard to find another Enzo, but at least a creative midfielder with goal.
Okay.
So a number 10, or not even a true 10, but like someone that can float. We
need a Manish.
But this center midfielder that you're talking about, Kenny, does he come in to sit alongside Tinu or Auschnitz, or does he replace one of the front 3?
Well, I think you need a player that can fill in the midfield mostly, because if we already have that other midfielder in, we have Neres, we have João Mario, we have Rafa. There's already 4 players there. I think it's more critical someone that's more central but can float to the outside as well. For me, it's Ricardo Horta. I think he can do that. But that's the type of player that I think I would be looking for. Then another striker, a true striker, and it looks like we have a winger. I don't know anything about this kid, so I don't know if he's just a player for potential or if he actually is going to get minutes. But I would maybe bring in another winger. He's got good numbers. Obviously, he's in the Danish league, but go ahead, Oscar.
I would get my position. I think what scares me, not even Enzo, because I think Freddie can fill that spot very well. I think is more the defensive midfield position, with us having to trust Florentino for the rest of the season, the only guy that we can trust. I think somebody coming in and that can play Florentino's position and play a box to box is probably what we need the most right now. The other ones that we might need is backups of what we have already.
Okay. Just to give you some numbers here. So his first name is Andreas, so I'm going to stick to calling him that because his last name is Schjelderup. Schjelderup. Fuck, that's a tongue twister. He plays for Nordsjælland in the Danish league. He's Norwegian midfielder, 18 years old. He'll be 19 in June. And he's a midfielder with goals. He's got 17 appearances this season in the Danish league, and he's got 10 goals. And he's very highly touted. So I think he's obviously a player for the future, but a player that I think they hope can have an impact off the bench at least this season. Jay, what are your must-haves this transfer window?
So the first half of the season, we pretty much had a rotation, and I know it was Enzo and Tino, but like Frederick was kind of getting involved as well. So I feel like we need to get a replacement for Enzo. The type of player, I don't know. I know I've seen rumors about some Turkish guy. I don't know if he's going to come, but I would like to have a similar player like Enzo. I know it'll be tough to find a player like him with all the swag, but I feel like there are players out there that hopefully our scouting team can land one. I think after what you described, that 18-year-old kid, I'm not too confident. I think we probably need to reinforce there as well. I think I kind of agree with Kenny. The perfect player is Ricardo Horta because he can play all the positions up front. And as far as a striker, I would like to find another striker, but I think that we're gonna be stuck with Ramos and Musa for the rest of the year. Which, as long as Ramos plays, we should be all right.
Bill, what are your thoughts? And just to give a shout out here to your dad. Your dad commented on my share of this video. He didn't comment on the actual video, but he said o Cantinho Benfiquista está de parabéns, mas com respeito ao Enzo, 127 milhões que vai embora.
Abraço
para ti, Elias.
Vai com Deus.
What are your must-haves?
I kind of agree with Oscar. I think with Freddie and João Mario, I think the two of them. I mean, João Mario, yeah, he lines up on the outside on the wing, but he tucks in more often than not. I think between the two of them, they can kind of fill that the Enzo role where we're kind of building from them. My concern would be Florentino. Like, we don't have another Trinco on the bench. We don't have anyone that fits that profile.
I think Frederick can play that position.
I
think Frederick's good, but I don't know if he can play.
That's like putting Weigl back there. That's the same thing.
I don't know if he's.
Yeah, but Frederick's got a different motor on him.
Yep.
Right, but we adapting players they're more pushed
up.
I
agree.
To play more pushed up.
Can he play there? I think he can, and I think he can do the job. Do we want him to play there? I don't think we want him. Now, if Benfica had the option to go get a more offensive-minded midfielder with the thought of Tino and Auschnitz play, Tino goes down, we can shift Auschnitz over, and this midfielder we bring in brings into that midfield creativity and goals. I wouldn't be upset with that.
That's my thinking on that.
Worst case, I think worst case we have an Auschnitz guy.
Has Freddie played in that defensive?
Yeah, because he's played along with Enzo.
He played there for Feyenoord.
Yeah, with Enzo,
and he played there for Feyenoord
pushes
as well.
Back to the, Enzo plays like the box to box. He can play back there.
I thought he was Enzo drops.
Enzo drops in to create. Enzo doesn't drop in to defend. There's a difference, right? There's a difference between dropping in to get the ball. You see Enzo making tackles like Tino does?
Yeah.
Of course not.
Well,
come on.
But I don't see Enzo making like the same thing as Freddie. I don't see Freddie making tackles like Tino.
His
correct,
position
because he's playing with Tino. He's naturally a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Dave says, what happened to Paulo Bernardo? Paulo Bernardo is likely going on loan. So Benfica has João Ferreira on loan at Rio Ave. He wasn't playing. So Benfica removed him and they sold him to Watford for $3 million. And that opens up an extra spot for Benfica to loan out a player in the Portuguese league. And the rumor is that Paulo Bernardo will be that player. You're gonna say something?
Can I have a question about the other young kid that got minutes against Braga. What was his name?
João Neves.
Why is it that there's another example of a Ventus type player? Like, these kids look so young and fragile. Like
his shorts look 3 sizes too big.
They look like an I said this in the chat. It looked like he was wearing N1 shorts. Like, I don't understand.
And his shirt's tucked in. It makes it worse.
Our best player, these kids are getting minutes, and they're like.
I remember when Thiago Dance got loaned out to Bayern, everyone was all up in arms. Fucking kids, are fucking
Bayern's gonna buy him. Yeah, dude, I don't know. Só comem sopa no Seychelles. I don't know what's going on, dude. They gotta start giving some carne or something. I don't know what's going on. Dave asks us what central defender departs Benfica this window. To remember, we have Otamendi, we have Tony Silva, Lucas Veríssimo, João Vitor, who has not been called up, and Brooks, I think, is 100% gone.
Yeah, Brooks
the other four, I don't think Brooks is definitely going to leave. The other
Morato
four, I don't think. Morato, I forgot Morato. Yeah. So we have 5 outside of Brooks. We have 5. I don't think any leave in January. But
Brooks.
I'm saying outside of Brooks. I think Brooks is an obvious.
Well, I think
outside of Brooks, we have 5. We have 5 outside of Brooks. With Brooks, we have 6. We got Lucas Veríssimo, João Vitor, Otamendi, Tony Silva, and Morato.
They all stay.
That's 5
if we can
starters.
keep them, because I would have think that Otamendi's out next year, right? And then,
I think Tony Silva's out next year.
And then you're covered, right? Then you got the 4
but
that you're
the thing is, like, Otamendi leaves, but no money for Benfica. It's just a contract ends,
Correct.
right?
Contract.
That's true, but let's just say
we need to-
Otamendi leaves, Morato maybe, or Antonio Silva. I don't know. One of them leaves, right? But then you still have 3. You only have to backfill 1, right? Or you bring up another kid. So if you can hold on to all of them, I think you do it.
My question is how many more? Like, do you guys think if Antonio Silva has a bad game here and there, do you think he pulls the plug and puts Verissimo in or one of those guys, or does he think he has?
I think he's riding.
Or does he think? Or does he think he has a lot of slack? Like, you know,
I think his slack. I think his leniency is mostly driven by the fact that Lucas Verissimo still doesn't look to be fit.
Yeah.
And João Vitor has been in and out of the team with an injury. If anything, Morato is going to be that guy, but we've seen Morato, piss down his leg, a few times this season, right? He had that blunder against Steaua da Amadora. We said at the beginning of the season that Morato looked good, right? But he's got a mistake in him. I think Roger Schmidt is committed to Tony Silva unless he absolutely has a dreadful run of play. I'd be very surprised if he pulls him out of the starting 11 this season.
Yeah, I would. I've turned on that conversation.
Yeah, Kenny, where's Morato? Kenny.
Well,
you've turned Kenny. You've turned him.
No, I agree. I think he's got a little bit more leniency. Unless he
and Morato's sucking.
Listen,
he's definitely not the same player. But we could say the same thing about Lucas Verissimo, right? We don't know what to expect with him because of his injury, right? João Vitor's got an ankle problem. He's been in and out of the team. Right?
We haven't
so
seen
what's he
enough
going to
of
give
him.
us?
I expect big things from Lucas Verissimo when he comes back.
I do too. I mean, he showed us a lot before he got hurt.
Yeah.
The question is, that injury is not easy to come back from.
He was our best center back before he left.
100%.
I still think that I still expect a lot from him. I know it can't come from injury. It might take a little bit of time, but I still expect him to be like the captain of our team maybe one day.
If he stays healthy, I wouldn't disagree. Red Baron says there's a few Enzos in Europe outside the Big Five. Reader from Young Boys. Vermin from PSV. I know him. Tutlier from Ajax. I think the guy from Ajax would be difficult to get to Benfica. I'd be surprised if somebody from Ajax would come to Benfica unless they're not getting minutes there. He says João Vitor was a mistake. Red Baron also says Morato has been awful. Since his injury, he's definitely dropped down. But again, he's not playing as consistently. Confidence levels aren't there, right? So that plays a huge part in it. So it's going to be a long month. Hopefully by Friday, everything's finalized, at least with Enzo. We turn that page, move on, get favorable payments so we're not dragging it out. I think we all agree that we hope that he has a negative career, at least at Chelsea. 1, because I don't like Chelsea, but 2, because I'm pissed off at the fact that he did what he did. Quickly, how are you feeling about Friday's game? I'll go around the table quickly. Oscar, how are you feeling confidence-wise? Do you think we'll bounce back?
What's the Pilazo?
We're gonna.
And again, don't forget, we got no Rafa. We got
Nez
is an unknown. And here's another question: if Otamendi gets a yellow card, he doesn't play against Sporting. Do you?
There's a cup game between. I think you clear it there.
No, we play next week.
We play for the scene
there's
right
a cup
after
game
we
in
play for the
between.
scene.
Oh, the Taça Portugal. But I don't think it clears in the Taça.
That's the thing. Is it cleared?
It doesn't.
I think it does.
I think it cleared in Taça da Liga. I think it cleared for Taça da Liga, not Taça de Portugal.
I think if you get
one of the cups, you clear it.
I think if you get the card in the cup, it clears for the league. But if you get the card in the league, I don't think it clears in the cup because teams are doing that.
I don't think so.
All right, give me your thoughts. I'm going to look it up.
Well, I think with the players that we're missing, it's not going to be a joke. I think our players are going to be more cautious. I still think we win. I still have faith that we can beat Portimonense, this Portimonense at least at home. I'm going with a 3-1 win.
3-1 win. Okay. Jay?
I'm being optimistic. I think that we're going to rebound. I'm also going with the 3-1 win.
Copycat.
Kenny?
Yeah, we'll rebound, I hope. 2-1.
Okay.
What happened to your clean sheets, boys?
Bill?
No, I agree with Kenny. I think we rebound, but I think the the struggles to find the back of the net will continue, and I think it'll be a 2-1 win. But I think it'll be a lot better performance than what we saw against Braga.
God, that would suck.
It can't get any worse.
That's fucking true.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah, I'm confident. I think the team will bounce back. I know we're missing Rafa, but I think the team has to give a response here, and I think that the locker room will be motivated at home to show that, or at least I hope that it was just a small banana peel that caught us. I did find the information. Well, some of the information. If you get the card in the Taça, it clears in the league, so you can't play in your next league game. I have to find the other way around, but I'm almost positive.
If it can't go just one way, if it goes one way, it goes the other as well. Because
I know teams were doing is they would get the card in the Campeonato, and then they have a game coming up against the 4th division team, and they would get the card, so they don't play against the 4th division.
So that changed this year. Because last year
they changed it recently.
Yeah, last year I know.
There was players getting cards on purpose.
Yeah, I know about Porto clearing some cards on a Taça game because clearing we get a yellow on the league to not play in the Taça game.
It's like that old was it Mourinho, I think, at Real Madrid was like telling players Ramos and I think Xabi Alonso to get red cards on purpose.
Just appeal it, dude. Some players you appeal it.
Yeah, to like Sporting.
Legit. Appeal it, you're good for like 3 years.
Did Palhinha already not play?
Yeah. When he comes back, maybe he'll get suspended. He won't be able to play when he comes back to Portugal. All right. Well, everyone's high. Everyone's feeling confident for Friday. Hopefully the team can bounce back. Hold on. We got another comment that wasn't on the your mom. Bill, you got to teach your parents to comment on the live, not on the shared.
Tech support. All right, I got it.
Your mom says, fosse uma sopa transmontana e bife à barroso, bem fazia para mexerem essas pernas. I agree. E presunto. All right. Well, that wraps it up for today. Thank you to everyone that was in the chat. Friday, big game, big response. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. Give us a like. New year. Let's see if we can get those numbers up. We're at 28K on Facebook. My goal is to hit 30K before the end of the season. So if you haven't already, jump over there and give us a like and all the other social media platforms. Tomorrow we will be here. I will be here with the Portuguese podcast with a different group of personnel to get their thoughts and opinions. We on the American podcast will be back next week. As always, gentlemen, a pleasure. Hopefully next week we'll be back with more smiles and a W. Until then, have a good evening. E Viva Benfica.
Viva.
Good night, boys.